Before we dive in, I just want to say, the response to the Semiotics of Alien episode has been wild. I never expected a niche show about design history to find much of an audience, but I'm really glad you're here. So, when you think of Alien, you probably picture the Xenomorph, the creature that never stops becoming something worse. The chestburster exploding across the dinner table, the facehugger wrapping itself tight, Ripley staring down the Queen with a flamethrower. But there's another monster, hiding in plain sight. It doesn't lunge from the shadows. It seeps in, frames every corridor, and stalks every breath. It's the quietest killer in the franchise. Color. From the very first film, Alien has been speaking in color, not just for style, but as coded signals, telling us what kind of story we're in long before the characters figure it out. Once you start noticing the palette choices, you can't unsee them. They're like warning lights baked into the atmosphere of each film. In this episode, we're going to decode that palette, from the grays of the Nostromo to the sterile blues of Earth, and see how color has always been part of Alien's language. But first, did you know that the Nostromo wasn't always gray? Designer Ron Cobb wrote that an early model of the ship was painted yellow, which Ridley Scott found garish. It was repainted a dull gray, a deliberate shift away from construction vehicle vibes towards lifeless industrial haulage. That one choice defined the film's palette: corporate, industrial, and expendable. The Nostromo reads as industrial grays and clinical whites, cold steel corridors, low ceilings, flicker and haze. That wasn't an accident, it was designed. And you can see that when you zoom out. This is the entire film compressed into stripes of color, frame by frame. Notice how it's dominated by blacks, silvers, and deep blue streaks, with occasional bursts of sterile whites. That's not random noise. That's the palette speaking the language of corporate expendability. Alien's palette was already doing narrative work, but when James Cameron took the reins for Aliens, the color code shifted. We jump to 1986, and the palette tilts sharply. Military greens, washed steels, and a flood of blue lighting that almost swallows the frame. Here's the Aliens in barcode form. The difference is striking. An entire film bathed in steely blues and muted greens. It looks like a combat zone under fluorescent light, long before the shooting starts. Cameron didn't just change the genre, he changed the color code. And then there's Alien 3. The palette takes a radical turn because the setting does. Fiorina 161 isn't a corporate ship or a military outpost. It's a prison planet, an ore refinery at the edge of nowhere. Everything is corroded, rust-stained, and lit by firelight or failing fluorescence. See how the spectrum collapses into browns, oranges, and black shadows? It's the color of rust and decay, baked into every frame. The prisoners' rough uniforms, the sweating walls, the furnace glow, all of it contributes to a palette that feels less like science fiction and more like medieval purgatory. Where Aliens spoke in grays and Aliens in blue-green combat fluorescence, Alien 3 speaks in rust. The palette itself tells you this is a story about rot and inevitability. Survival isn't the question anymore. The question is how much suffering comes before the end. Let's look at the first 3 films together to see the variation in tone. Okay, let's talk about the prequels, Prometheus and Covenant. Suddenly, the palette gleams with luminous whites and brushed golds. Production designer Arthur Max described Prometheus as a flagship, built with monumental, almost classical grandeur. And that's what the color communicates: awe, faith, the lure of creation. By Covenant, the gold fades, the palette hardens into sterile whites and shallow blacks. Color finishing supervisor Steven Nakamura and DP Dariusz Wolski pushed the grading into severe contrast, stripping away warmth, flattening skin, and emphasizing the clinical. Faith had curdled, and the palette makes it feel inevitable. And then you get to Romulus. Look at it. The series slams back into the dark. Deep blues, cold fluorescence, long stretches of oppressive black. Fede Alvarez said he wanted to capture the fear of the original. And you can feel it. This isn't the mythic grandeur of Prometheus or the green-gold shimmer of Covenant. It's closer to 1979 than anything since. Claustrophobic dread, lit like a nightmare you can't wake up from. Romulus slams the series back into the dark. We've been looking at these movies one at a time. But what happens when you line up the entire Alien saga, every film, every frame, side by side? Suddenly, you can read the DNA of the franchise in color alone. From the cold industrial blues of Alien, to the militarized steel of Aliens, the rust-brown despair of Alien 3, the almost comic book sheen of Resurrection, and into the modern prequels where Ridley Scott paints in phosphorescent teals and eerie greens. Even Romulus carries the genetic code, stitching itself into a lineage you can literally see. And now, let's talk about Alien Earth. Shot in large part on location in Thailand, the exteriors are lush, humid greens, ochre earth, tropical light. But the most critical moments unfold indoors, where the palette slams into icy blues and clinical whites. Boardrooms, bunkers, sterile compartments, spaces drained of warmth, drained of humanity. The contrast between natural exteriors and sterile interiors tells you all you need to know. Whatever life exists out there, the system inside is ready to extinguish it. It's worth noting the importance of lighting technology here. In 1979, color on set was shaped by the limits of tungsten bulbs, gels, and film stock. Today, LED systems can reproduce virtually any hue, which means every sterile wash of blue in Alien Earth isn't accidental, it's chosen. Every color is intentional. Across 9 entries, Alien has never stopped speaking in color. Gray told us we were disposable. Blue-green told us the Marines didn't stand a chance. Rust told us decay was inevitable. Gold pretended we could play God. And now, Earth's pale blue whispers something new, that survival might already be out of reach. If you like looking past the horror to spot the hidden codes, subscribe for more. We're not just watching Alien here, we're decoding it, one color, one sound, one symbol at a time. Okay, I'll see you in the next one.
This is Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo. Signing off.